I want to cut across to Brahma Chalani, strategic affairs expert, who's joining me for more on this. Mr. Chalani, I'm sure you expected this because you can expect anything from President Trump now.
It's interesting that he has targeted the three democracies in the global south that are all independent powers: Brazil, India, and South Africa. He's gone after them, and that really shows that the old approach in US foreign policy, with us or against us, that is back at the center of American diplomacy. But more broadly, by weaponizing tariffs, Trump is reshaping America's sanctions strategy. He's now fashioning a new sanctions tool. Tariffs have become the new sanctions, the sanctions of choice. So, for example, when he imposes secondary tariffs on India, he's imposing sanctions on India, sanctions on India. And I think the irony is that that in the past, when he was serving the first term, he imposed sanctions on Iran and thereby deprived India of cheaper Iranian oil. Iran traditionally had offered an impressive discount to India, but when he imposed sanctions on Iran in 2019, India then cut off its energy relationship with Iran, and the only beneficiary was China. China became almost the exclusive buyer of Iranian oil and has remained so for the last 6 years. And Iranian oil today remains the cheapest oil on the world market because it sells at a steep discount to the Brent benchmark. So in other words, Trump hurt India's competitiveness while actually enabling China to accumulate greater economic and military power. That is a short-sighted approach. Now he has turned to India's discounted Russian oil purchases, while the West actually contributes more to Russia's coffers than India does, because the Western trade with Russia far exceeds India's total trade with Russia. So when he talks about India funding Russia's war machine, ironically, it's the West that is funding Russia's war machine in a major way. And now by seeking to target India's Russian oil purchases, what is he seeking to do? He is seeking to make India America's primary energy client. He wants India to ditch Russian oil in favor of higher priced American oil. The US is already a major and growing exporter of energy products to India, but he's not satisfied with that. He wants India to actually become the number one importer
Mr. Chalani,
of American energy products.
The fact is, usually you stare down a bully. The defiance that India has shown has only led the bully to escalate. Where do you think India should stand now? Because any minute we're going to be expecting a response there. And I'm going to quickly bring in Geeta Mohan. I think we finally have her, but Mr. Chalani, go first, sir.
I think dealing with a bull in the China house, in the China shop, is always a challenge for any nation. It's even a bigger challenge for a country like India that traditionally has been risk averse. India's traditional diplomacy has been very cautious, and therefore dealing with this guy, with an approach that is so brazen and so upfront, is a challenge for Indian diplomacy. But India has to stay composed and has to respond in a measured manner, and yet its response has to be such that Washington should get a message that India will not take it lying down.
That message clearly is not being delivered, Geeta, because whatever has been India's reference points in diplomacy have been completely upended. Where do you see things stand now? Because at least in the last 30 years, this has been an all-time low.
Well, this is an absolute low between India and the United States of America. There have been times where we've seen US not participate or support India on many counts, but this certainly is another level of dipping in ties between India and the United States of America. We over here have the entire executive order that has just been put out by the White House, and it does say that this is additional 25% tariff. That's the penalty that Donald Trump was talking about in response to continued purchase of Russian oil. And they go into the background very interestingly over here. The president talks about how he's got additional information from various senior officials on what Russia has been doing and the situation in Ukraine, which, might I add, was not known to White House in the past. But he certainly suddenly has realized that there's a lot of wrong that Russia suddenly has done, and therefore countries that are dealing with Russia have to be penalized. And India, being one important partner of Russia, is being penalized for that. 50% is huge. India will have to calibrate its response. India already put out a statement saying that while the United States of America wants it to stop buying Russian oil, that the U.S. continues to purchase uranium from and fertilizers from the United States of America. Over here, a very important part also is the fact that there is an exemption that has been offered to things that U.S. wants. So it does say that the executive order shall be imposed and applied to barring those that are eligible for admission under domestic status. Now we'll have to look at what are the products that America is exempting from this 50% tariff. But for now, this is going to be huge. It's going to shake the markets, but it's also going to shake American consumers, not today, but certainly in some time to come, when they feel the pinch of increased prices because of increased tariffs. Having said that, it's all about Preeti, who blinks first right now.
You're right there, because eventually, this is a move which I would reckon even economists back in America understand, Siddharth, of cutting your nose to spite your face. But having said that, where India is concerned, and if you're actually looking, Siddharth, at a 50% tariff which kicks in 21 days, that really could be disastrous. So India really needs to work fast.
Well, very clearly, some more details as we go through this 7-page executive order. And because it's an executive order, it is full of US government legalese and bureaucracies. Two clear things. 25% was the earlier tariff that was imposed on all goods from India. Remember, Trump had promised a penalty on account of Russian crude oil purchases. This 25% is on account of that. It is an ad valorem duty, therefore, which means that it's calculated on the value of the goods being imported. So that's clarity at this stage, that this is perhaps the threat that he had made when he announced the first 25%. Now, can he make 500%? He's done that. He's gone back. We know that there is no method in his madness here really to say as far as customs duties and tariffs are concerned. But that's the point. The key headline at this stage from the executive order is the Russia crude purchases have now led the United States to impose a cost of 25% in addition to whatever else was already being paid. So the Russia threat that he had made has been delivered upon. One more quick point, Preeti, and this is very, very important for us to consider at this stage. The timing, as he had threatened, 24 hours, he's delivered on that. Very clearly, there is a certain response that he may have been expecting. After seeing the response, he has decided to ratchet it up further. But it's therefore the big question will be, has he left any scope for further negotiations?
Right.
And I would say that many other nations have come to the table after he's done this. Will India do so? That's the key thing that we need to find answers to.
And what's the way to deal with it? Because till now we've been defiant. Staring a bully down clearly hasn't worked as of now. What are we dealing with? What could be the implications of it? Karishma, would you want to quickly weigh in on that? And we'll go back to Mr. Chalani then.
Yeah, Preeti, I think India is definitely in tight spot, and there have been no bargaining chips that the US has offered us. But what is interesting is, and this is because you were discussing about the negotiations that are pending to happen, especially on the bilateral trade agreement. Look at the timeline. August 25 is the date when officials from Washington are to be visiting India to continue the bilateral trade talks and to seal the deal at least by October, so that we do away with the 25% now plus 25% tariff. And around August 26 and 27, if I calculate 21 days right from here, is when this extra additional 25% tariff will come into being. So if the negotiations are going to be on, which is going to be the next big I think information for us to track, then this could be an opportunity for us to roll back. Because if we see currently we are at par with Brazil. We are one of the top, in the top 2 countries to be imposed with a high tariff, despite the fact that we've had a first-hand advantage and we've had multiple meetings with the officials from Washington.
Mr. Chalani, what would be right now diplomatically prudent? Right, is it best to back off a little because we've been very, very defiant, we've dug in our heels, but we don't know who we are dealing with? What would be the best stance for India right now? Sir, you're on mute. Unmute yourself. Mr. Chalani, you're on mute?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, sorry
Go ahead,
about
sir.
that. Yeah. He has singled out India. The executive order that has been issued by the White House makes no mention of China, which is the primary buyer of Russian energy products. EU and Turkey are also significant buyers of Russian energy products. But it's India that has been singled out in that White House order. And that is quite telling. And simultaneously, and this is the other breaking news that's coming out from Washington, that Trump is planning to announce this afternoon that Apple is pledging $100 billion more investment in the US so as to ramp up domestic production of iPhones. Right now, as you know, the majority of iPhones sold in the US are made in India. So he's seeking to wean Apple iPhone production from India to the US. That's another threat to India. The whole purpose of the Quad was to diversify supply chains. It was designed to make supply chains more not only diversified but more sustainable, more diversified in the sense that taking production away from China to countries that are major democracies. And India was seen as the right place to promote manufacturing, to take manufacturing away from China. And here, Trump is pursuing a policy to take manufacturing from India to the US. So that's another threat that he has opened against India. But to answer your broader question, the question is that Trump has turned disruption into a virtual doctrine of his foreign and trade policies. And dealing with him requires both firmness with diplomatic engagement. You have to balance firmness with diplomatic engagement. And firmness will have to include some countermeasures, that is counter-tariffs, because even Canada, which is a much smaller economy compared to India, Canada's response has been to impose retaliatory tariffs on the US. And Brazil is also standing up to US in a similar way. So firmness has to mean more than just rhetorical statements. It has to include what India did during Trump's first term. When he slapped some tariffs on India, India did respond by announcing counter-tariffs. And that eventually led to negotiations and the withdrawal of these tariffs on the eve of the G20 summit in New Delhi in September 2023. So I think firmness with diplomatic engagement holds the key.
Is the solution? Well, India has to do what it has to do for self-preservation right now, and I think that's what India would be deliberating, because this is huge, huge news coming in, which takes India's relationship with the United States of America to debatably at an all-time low. The latest that has come in, which President Trump, through an executive order, has slapped India with a 25% penalty, extra tariff, which takes the tariff on India all the way to 50%, which is pliable in 21 days from now.